Everyone, and welcome to the 2 Point Conversion. We are live on the Go Live Network. I'm your host, Kyle Senner, one of your hosts. There's four hosts here. I do like to do all, but I consider all my co-hosts. Dr. James Severity, and the B League says, Gladys Louise Tyler. Hi, how is everyone doing?
Good. Everyone good. I'm speaking for everyone. We're doing good.
That's it. We are. Happy Monday. Weird week. We're closing off a very weird week in the NFL, but
yeah, glad it's over.
Speaking of weird, I know some weird happens with the live feed on YouTube. People can't necessarily comment, so want to join in the conversation? Feel free to comment, ask us questions. You can do so on Facebook, on YouTube. Any of those live feeds will allow for that interaction.
So if you're on Twitter and your comments aren't showing up, that's why. It's not. We're not ignoring you. We're not seeing the comments. Restream says they're going to fix it at some point. I'm sure they will, but in the interim, if you're sending us comments on Twitter, we're not going to see them. So you got to send. If you want to interact with us, you got to do it through one of those other platforms.
Always hopeful, Doc. Yeah, we'll drop and heal that solution at some point. All right, enough. Well, we'll talk the actual doctor with talk. I guess part of the weird week of the NFL is there weren't that many new injuries. Still a few, but like feels like other weeks we've been bombarded completely. This week was like, okay, wasn't so bad. Maybe it was a weird week, so may as well keep going. So I think Doc, one of the first things we're going to talk about is something that for the not tonight's primetime game, but the next one, the Thursday night game. Including the Dolphins and Ravens. For the Dolphins, who knows who will be quarterback? Tua Tagovailoa announced just Sunday morning active with a finger injury, so Jacoby Brissett made the start. Looking like he's got Thursday night as well, Doc.
So yeah, this one was kind of frustrating because they talked about leading into the week that Tua was having swelling in the middle finger of his throwing hand, but they weren't really concerned about it. And then sure enough, Sunday morning, about an hour before the game, he's got a broken finger. He's not starting, and Jacoby Brissett's stepping in for him. So that was all information that we probably could have had prior to an hour before game time, but that's not how it worked out. So always good to be flexible with these things, right? Not saying that I had to go in and change about 15 DFS lineups right before game started, but better than finding out after the game started, I guess. But yeah, this fracture, this break in the finger, at this point, it's looking more like Trey Lance than Russell Wilson. So a break in the bone, but not the complex break that Russell Wilson had, where he had to get surgery and was out for a month plus. But that notwithstanding, this break could cost Tua 1 or 2 more weeks potentially. So it's just something we got to watch the practice reports on. And Jacoby Brissett continues to be an emergency superflex option or emergency quarterback option for people as long as he's out there. He's not really doing great, but it's better than nothing. And the way that a lot of things happen with lineups this week, I know there were some teams in superflex leagues where they didn't even have a second quarterback to throw in their superflex spot. They had to go with, whomever. So, there are worse options out there is, I guess, what I'm thinking.
I guess first question already. Finally remember to tune in on. So thank you, Ryan, for tuning in
Ryan.
And joining live. So feel free to again ask away as many questions as you want. Comment as much as you feel necessary. But yeah, any comments for Tua or Doc? Like, do you think this is beyond week 10? Like, do you think he'll be like you're saying? You seem to take more on the optimistic side, not significant as Russell Wilson's. Do you think he's back week 11 fully fine?
I think it's, if you remember Trey Lance from a couple of weeks ago when Jimmy Garoppolo hurt his calf, and then they said that Trey Lance kind of cracked a bone in his finger, and it ended up costing him a week or two. This feels very similar to that. So that's what I'm kind of thinking. It is something where he could be active this week. He could also be out this week, and then maybe week 11. It's really, it doesn't feel like it's like catastrophic, but it does feel like it's something where if you have Tua and you've been relying on him, because he actually has been playing pretty well for the past few weeks, that you're going to need a backup plan just in case of emergency break glass type thing. And at least now we're getting past some of the buys. Some of the people are recovering and they're getting their legs under them again. So you just have to have another option for the next couple of weeks until we see how this thing kind of plays out.
All right, so more quarterback talk, unless Gladys, Dan, you want to mention anything about Tua that we felt we didn't bring up yet?
Nope.
All right, so we go.
Just 2 steps forward, 1 step back for the kid, isn't it? You know, he
really
gets a couple games and then out, then a couple games and then out. Yeah.
Well, he's still there though. He didn't get traded, so.
Yeah, that's true.
And they didn't trade to bring anyone else in. I think maybe more importantly. But I guess Dan, you're a co-host. That show still exists.
What up, Izzy?
Izzy's here. So Justin
Fields. Justin, Izzy. Justin. Who's James?
I thought he was talking to me.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna go over 182 yards today, Doc. But yeah. Give me the winner chicken dinners. Not sure who he's talking about there. Maybe Brissett, actually. Maybe it was your Jacoby Brissett comment that inspired him. But yeah, Justin Fields over under 2.5 yards, and yeah, I think Izzy's coming.
Izzy, don't ask me about the over unders, man. I'm ice. I'm going to be asking you.
I know what's going on. He's waiting for me to send over He's waiting for me to send over an NBA DFS lineup to him.
There you go.
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. So
this isn't going to be a slam dunk pick here, Doc?
Not for me, Jesus. I mean, I would say let's get through the injuries first, and let's see if I have any energy left to make some more horrific prop bet picks.
That's true. I mean, he is saying the goods, which may be the injury analysis for you.
I don't know. Unless he wants to know what I think, so he can go in the other direction. That might be the better play.
Yeah, knowing the room, right? It's funny about Urban Meyer, right? What does Urban Meyer want to do? Do the opposite, but with the Jaguars.
That's always a good idea.
So Trevor Lawrence, a low ankle sprain. So not the high ankle sprain we're afraid of, and I know quarterback maybe not as worried as we would for a running back or wide receiver. Still an issue. Left return. So is that a sign that he should be good to go, even if he's not? Should be fine to go in week 10, or could there maybe be some concern here? And I guess who's the backup there? I think it's CJ Beathard.
Yeah,
I think it is too. I think the short answer is low ankle sprain. He was able to return to the game in week 9. He should play week 10. I think there's mild concern unless he does something during the practice week or leading up to the game. I think he'll be fine. The only issue is that when you have somebody that's going in where they have like a low ankle sprain injury, there's an increased risk of in-game injury or in-game departure. And in fantasy, that can be a killer. Like if you have a guy that goes out, like we saw with another ankle injury with Chase Edmonds, who we'll get to, he hurt his ankle and never came back. And you get less than a point for your efforts. And James Conner goes global thermonuclear, and that doesn't help you. James Conner's on everybody's bench. Chase Edmonds gets started, he gets less than a point, and everybody's crying in their beer over that one, which I don't blame them. So that's really the only risk. But I think he will play, and he's a decent option. Just has that in-game re-injury risk a little bit elevated.
Played James Conner about half the leagues I had him in, so I would have liked to play him in the other half.
Kudos to you.
Yeah, at least I got some exposure. It was Nyheim Hines. I think one league out of quite a played him. So that was there's a lot of benches that had the Hines on it, but at least Conner, it was about half I think more than leagues where I had him. He was starting, so at least that's good. Yeah. But yeah, well, we can talk about the Cardinals now. So yes, they've I guess ankle injury with the quarterback as well, Kyler Murray. So similar to Trent's. So he missed this game. So maybe seems like a little bit more severe than Lawrence, or is it where the Cardinals maybe just being more precautious? And it's about the same severity of injuries. They're just maybe more worried about Murray since his running is a big part of his game, although I guess it hasn't been the last couple of weeks anyway.
Yeah, I think they want to protect him a little bit because they've been doing so well, and they're kind of thinking more long-term like playoffs and things like that. So they didn't want to kind of rush him back out there since, their record is so good. And he did miss week 9 with the ankle sprain. And it kind of felt like that was going to be the case. And for education purposes, like you'll notice how these things evolve. And it's like you can kind of learn the process a little bit, like as we go through these things, because he got hurt on one of the last plays of the game. And then they're like, oh, no problem. He'll probably be fine. We're just going to tape it up. He said he was fine after the game. Everybody said he was fine. He's not practicing, and things are kind of looking worse. And then sure enough, he misses the game, and now they're not sure if he's going to play next week. So all of a sudden it went from he's fine to potentially a 2-week absence, maybe more. And this very much feels like Saquon Barkley for like worst case scenarios here, because Saquon Barkley had a low ankle sprain, even though the thing was like, blown up to the size of my head. And he's missed a month. And low ankle sprains can be bad. There's grades of severity for low ankle sprains as well. And if you have a more high grade low ankle sprain, you can miss 2, 3, 4 weeks with those too. So not out of the woods yet with Kyler Murray, unfortunately. And for the Cardinals' sake, they do have some games to play with, really. So they're not really feeling the pressure to rush him back out there. They want him available for later in the season, the playoffs, and potentially make a Super Bowl run. So they're not going to rush him back, I don't think.
He misses week 11 as well? They hold him out for that, knowing they've got the bye week 12, and then only back week 13. So we could legit see, be like fantasy managers might have a whole month without.
Yeah, no, it's that could happen. That could very well happen, and it wouldn't surprise me.
I know Izzy's a little upset there. I will say, even before this week, maybe not so much single quarterback leagues, but every super flex league where I made sure I picked up Colt McCoy. If the benches were deep enough, if I had Chris Streveler as well, maybe CFL bias more than anything.
Boy.
But
that's Chris Streveler is your boy.
Yeah, we'll say that from a quarterback perspective anyway. But yeah, sorry, Izzy, about that. But so we talked about with Tua, Jacoby Brissett being a pickup. Would you guys like? I'm glad to stay and chime in on this too. Do you think Brissett's the better pickup, or Colt McCoy, or even? I guess we could talk about Sam Darnold's injury as well. Is PJ Walker the best of pickups? So Jacoby Brissett, Colt McCoy, PJ Walker. Who would be the quarterback you would all prioritize to grab?
I think it would depend on their schedule. I'm going to go matchups. I would have to look to see who they play in the next weeks coming up. But
Cardinals play Panthers.
They play who?
They both play each other. So it's Colt McCoy versus PJ Walker this week.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so that's going on. The Jaguars. Let me find out for you guys.
The Dolphins.
The Jaguars have the Colts.
Yeah,
Jaguars have the Colts, and the Dolphins have the Ravens on Thursday.
Right.
Mm.
And if you have to, the Bills have the Jets. If you've got that Mike White thing going on, and Trevor Siemian has the Titans.
Mm.
All the backup Titans.
Well, that's the thing about.
I can go in reverse.
Siemian
is last. Right? I think Jacoby Brissett is last on the list.
Even
as far as
would you
want to work backwards?
That includes C.J. Beathard.
C.J. Beathard as the backup for Trevor Lawrence. Okay, then he's second to last.
Yeah,
I think Trevor Lawrence is going to play though. So
I was getting that impression too. So Beathard's out of the car. We'll take him out. But yeah, for all the other injured guys we talked about, the one thing I actually think Simeon's last. I think he's going to keep the starting job. I think Taysom Hill could take that at any moment. So I think perspective, you'd rather have Hill be the starter, his rushing ability, him getting the rushing touchdowns. I think even if he's the starter, there's that fear that he could get vultured at any point. So he would be last on my list. I have Brissett because at least we know with Brissett, if he's in there, he's getting all the passing touchdowns. If there's a run, not be him. But yeah. So I think so you're saying Brissett last. I'm saying Simeon last. So who's first?
I got Brissett first, to be honest with you.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
How come?
I kind of like. It didn't look great, but I kind of like what he did against the Bucs. I kind of like what he did against the Colts. He was competitive against the Raiders. He's able to run these offenses almost as close to what the team is set up to do. You can't trust McCoy to do what Kyler Murray does. I know that sounds silly, but I kind of feel like Brissett is almost able to do what Tua does. I also have this weird thing with, it goes almost to what you were mentioning a few weeks ago, Kyle. If Brissett's been named the starter and he plays Thursday night, you're not guessing about McCoy if Murray comes back. You're not guessing about Bethard if Lawrence comes back. If you know that Brissett's playing Thursday night, you can throw him in and he's played, and that's done. And that's one less thing for you to have to worry about. I would call that a strategy thing.
Since last week.
Yeah, it was, right.
I was seeing today and yesterday a lot of people say, oh, I had Wentz on the bench, right? And then having to make a tough decision later. Like a lot of people just I did that in the league, having to find a replacement for Rodgers. I noticed Daniel Jones would have been a waiver claim that would have gone through Saturday. So I could have waited till Saturday or just then Thursday decide I can pick up Wentz right now and not have to that knowledge. I decided to do that, even though I had Jones ranked higher than Wentz this week, but it wasn't significant enough to where I don't want to make the risk and wait till Saturday. I'm just going to pick up Wentz and start him now. So again, those leagues where I didn't play Nyheim Hines, those were some of the worst this week. More than I think was there anyone on Thursday that was played that wasn't didn't do well. So some weeks that'll be that case. But.
Sorry, I also want to mention Baltimore's kind of erratic with some of the wins and losses they've had. They've iced a few teams out. They also lost to Las Vegas by 33-27. Derek Carr did that. Obviously, the Chiefs are pretty fantastic. 35-36. Okay. The Colts still put up 25 on them. This week against the Vikings, 31. It's not like okay quarterbacks don't get lucky against them too. I think that's the thing as well. He's got a decent cast around him. You know who his players are. Even with the Cardinals, it was still a guessing game of who can do what because, Green with COVID, Hopkins hamstring, Rondale Moore's been, hyper erratic this year. For me, I kind of know you can't trust any of the Jaguars receivers at this point. There's another one down the drain.
Wait, what about my boy Agnew? You can trust him.
Wait, can you?
He's doing something.
3 for 48.
I trust him more than I trust everybody's preseason darling, LaVista.
Yeah, even with the Saints, you're looking at Simeon. Who's he going to? It's Kamara. Okay, great, but then what? Then what? Right. a lot of these guys that are getting hurt, you trust the quarterback because of their quality. I understand that. But I like what's around with Brissett. I kind of like Waddle. I like Gesicki.
That's fair.
Miles Gaskin, Salvador, they're okay. He's made a connection for some reason with Mac Hollins. These are the things that are going on. I'm okay with the idea that he plays Thursday night if he's been given the job, and I like what he has around him, and I like that Baltimore. They're known at times to get a little leaky, and I'm okay with that. Some of these other games, I get it. Mike White and was it Josh Johnson? They kind of went nuts on the Colts, and that's who the Colts have this week again. Sorry, I think
they have the Jags.
There you go. So that could be CJ Beathard if it had to be, and I understand that, but I don't know. I kind of like Brissett in that one.
That's a good argument for Brissett.
Not unreasonable. Yeah. Not unreasonable.
I like the way you laid
Maybe I spoke too harshly in slandering our friend Jacoby Brissett. I know I feel bad. I want to take it back. Jacoby, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
I'm still coming down from last week's Taysom Hill tout.
Yeah, you and me both. I still don't know what I still don't know what happened there.
I doubled down and wrote about it as well, which was even worse.
You just needed catharsis. You just had to, I was like, I have more to get out.
I had to actually go, did I really just do that? Maybe I did. Whatever.
I guess if you absolutely need the start, Brissett, it's more sense than Taysom Hill, but I still think if you're not absolutely needing the quarterback for this week and thinking long term, I still think Taysom Hill's the best pickup because he has the upside that none of these other guys really post him. Like you were saying, Colt McCoy can't do the things Kyler Murray can do. If it was Chris Streveler with his floor, at least that you'd okay, he can kind of, even if he's not passing very well, he can still have a good fantasy game. McCoy, PJ Walker, all those guys, and even Brissett, they need to they have to play well in order to get those. Whereas with Taysom Hill, you wouldn't really have to.
I thought about picking up McCoy. What did he end up with this week? I watched McCoy last year with the Giants when he filled in for Daniel Jones, and I remember, and again, it's apples to oranges because how the Giants run, their offense is completely different to Arizona. There was just, I think we beat Seattle on the road, and he handed it off to Wayne Gorman 38 times. It was ridiculous. They still beat Seattle. McCoy was serviceable. I understand football and fantasy are two different things. So for me, I kind of like what Brissett can do, but not
So
this is
McCoy's. He went 22 for 26 for 240 yards. Looks like one passing touchdown. I don't think any interceptions, and then 23 yards on the ground rushing. So almost like in some scoring settings might have gotten to the 20-point mark, but just looks like it at least in the league I have right now, it's 19.31. So still pretty decent fantasy performance from a quarterback. I think so Gladys, who would you take out of those quarterbacks that we mentioned? So we talked about Brissett. So yeah, we got Brissett.
I need to know if Doc will answer Ryan's question because it's the second time he asked it.
Yeah, no, I'm waiting. I mean, this is a scintillating debate between Colt McCoy and Jacoby Brissett. I didn't want to interrupt you guys. You're on such a roll. Yeah, Ryan, David Montgomery, is he ready with the knee or is he too risky? I think, it's been more than a few weeks. I say get him out there. Like he's probably going to split time with Khalil Herbert, but I think if they're confident enough to get him out there and to play him, then he's going to be involved. So especially on a Monday night, if you didn't have any other options, I mean, I played Jeff Wilson yesterday and he got me a big fat 0. So I think David Montgomery is going to do better than that.
Did Wilson play yesterday? Was he in the game?
He was active. So
he was more active than Trey Sermon.
Yeah, exactly.
God damn.
So it sounds like
inactive.
Ryan said he'd play him tonight, so I'm guessing like everyone on Ryan's roster's played, so he can't put Montgomery in. So I don't think we're being asked that necessarily. But yeah, I guess with expectations, yeah, like I would be afraid to play Khalil Herbert. Like I know in one league I had both Chuba Hubbard and Christian McCaffrey, and that was going to be how much is McCaffrey going to play? It might be a 50-50 split, and I was not going to not play McCaffrey, but I actually considered playing both. Like, okay, should I put Hubbard in there? And he didn't do well enough to be worth being in the lineup. I think I had Tajay Sharp in there too, though, so I don't know that he did any worse than him. But it's one of those where like I'm feeling the same kind of sentiments. Like it's iffy to play Montgomery, and again, I think tonight like a lot of people would have had to make that decision anyway. Like you're already kind of like committing yourself to play him. But yeah, I think this is one where you almost don't have a choice anymore. If I was in a spot or either way, like if you happen to be in that spot, I know you're not in this case, but I would play either and then just see how it goes. Because the other thing is, as long as they're both active, somebody could get hurt in game and you don't know how that's gonna play. And then let's say Khalil Herbert, bangs up his knee or something and he's out. Now all of a sudden other guys are inactive. David Montgomery has to take on more of a role. Crazy things happen. So they made him active. They didn't have to. He's going to be out there. So I think he's gonna be involved.
Yeah, I saw earlier props for him. It was at I feel like if I remember, it was like 42.5 rushing, Montgomery and 8.5 receiving yards. So that was the prop.
That's one catch. Yeah.
Really.
I know, and I saw that and went, ooh. Mm-hmm. But again, that's
what do they know? What do they know that we don't?
Yeah, I mean here's the thing. That's 5-6 points.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not blowing your team away. It's
true.
It's very light, and that's on the conservative side there. So rightfully so. Vegas isn't going to put their numbers out there and let everyone dust them up.
Yeah, let everybody go under because they put it too high. Yeah,
that's it. So I mean, even at 42, 40. It's either 42 or 48. I can't remember. It was one of the two. I think it was 42.5. Even that feels high for me with Herbert active. But if you're in a position where you have to play him,
here's what I saw on Twitter. I think it was like one of the Canadian Twitter chats, and someone had asked it. They have the option: Khalil Herbert or Darnell Mooney. Who you going with between those two?
I would go with Herbert. To be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, and the reason is because of his body of work. Like, even though David Montgomery is coming back, the thing is, and maybe this is perception, and we could talk about this, but I'm actually okay with the 50-50 split. Like, I don't mind that because you can get 50-50. Like, it sounds bad. It's like, oh, I want the guy that gets 90% of the carries. Sure, everybody does, but you can have a 50-50 split, and you can get Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, and either way you went there, they both turned out fine. It's like sometimes you just. Not everybody's going to drop a 40 burger like James Conner did. So sometimes you just got to take your 10 or 15 points potentially and bank it and hope that your other guys show up. They may not win you the week, but there's a decent chance they're not going to lose the week for you. And that's just kind of how, I approach it anyway. I mean, yeah, I get the always shooting for upside, but sometimes you just need guys to show up and get you double digits, and then you bank that and you hope that your studs show up and guys have big games and things like that, and that wins you the week, carries the week. But a 50-50 split, I'll take either part of that, and that's usually pretty decent.
It's funny because I was thinking it was like easily the Mooney side, just because like he could have the upside. If he manages to catch a big touchdown pass, like you can kind of have that happen more easily. Like whereas with Herbert, the touchdowns might become tough to come by if he's not getting the goal line carries. Like, is he really going to break a long one off against the defense? I'm trying to see if they mentioned like how much they were behind by. Trying to just find if there's a context here. It's half PPR. It doesn't they need to score, but in that said, I think I would still take Mooney. So I don't know.
Well, Mooney had a lot of helium coming into the year, and he's just really kind of disappointed.
Him and LaVisca Chenault, they're all hanging out there on that balloon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're all hanging out with Trey Sermon at
that's it.
At the bar of Broken Dreams.
They look like my April best ball teams. That's what oh yeah, this looks great for me. Darnell Mooney, yeah, sure, why not?
So BetMGM has Darnell Mooney to record 5+ receptions at plus 175.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. I'll pick you up on the ticket, but
the numbers.
I'll tell you what. My answer is in the poll later on.
Okay. Right.
But I will say that the Steelers are giving up the 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers. There you go.
Is he saying Herbert? But I know
my boy Izzy.
So going with the running back, yeah, it's funny. The running back guy not going with the running back. That's funny. I know we were talking about PJ Walker potentially starting. Doc, do we know much about Sam Darnold's shoulder?
No, except that he's going for an MRI. He kind of had a murky status coming in with his concussion. He wasn't going to play, then he was going to play, and then he goes out. The concussion is fine, but he ends up hurting his shoulder, and he didn't really play that well to begin with. So my question is, could this be the excuse that they use to finally pull the plug on the Sam Darnold experiment and go to PJ Walker, at least for the next few weeks, irrespective of whether or not this turns out to be something, which it very well could with his shoulder. I mean, whenever you're going for an MRI, that's kind of scary. This could end up being something. And even if it isn't, it might just be an excuse for them to move off of him for a while because he really has not been performing over the last 4 weeks plus.
I think he's reacting the plus 177 to the Mooney line that Gladys found.
Get you a Ravens hat. Yeah, I'm sure, Ryan. But thanks.
Gladys is as loyal as it comes when it comes to the steel curtain.
Well, and
as far as Bateman, I think he's fine. It's just
same thing with Trevor Lawrence, right?
Hang on. But Bateman had that issue at the start of the year, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm not overly concerned about it. Like, he's been back out there. He kind of tweaked something during practice, and he was able to play. It's just something to monitor, but I'm not super concerned about it. You look at guys like Sammy Watkins, who I feel personally betrayed by him because I always tried to back him up, and the friggin' guy, sure enough, ends up being out for a month with whatever, and it's completely disloyal to my to my loyalty to him.
I'm sorry, Doc. I guess the thing is the teams are telling us a lot by letting those players go back out, whether it's Trevor Lawrence or Rashad Bateman in this case.
Yeah,
they can't know everything on the sidelines, but those teams are well trained and they know enough that if it's serious enough, they're not going to let them go back out there in game.
Yeah, that is true. That is true, but there's levels to it because if you remember. Derrick Henry last week, he was in and out of the game, and then sure enough, they found out afterwards when they were able to get more specific testing, sent him for an MRI, then they were able to see the break. So sometimes in game, you're not able to ascertain everything you need to. If it's something like an ACL or you dislocate a shoulder or you separate a knee or something horrific like that, then you can kind of do that testing on the sidelines. Other times it's a pain tolerance thing, and we've established on the show many times these guys are super tough. I mean, Derrick Henry literally played on a broken foot for part of the game and finished the game, and then they found out about it later. So there's always stages to it. It's like the first part is, can he go back into the game? If yes, that's a good sign, but that's not totally reassuring. Then it's like, okay, after the game, they get more testing. What's the story then? And then leading into the next week of practice. So it's almost like a 3-phase thing. Can they get back into the game? What does the immediate post-game situation look like? And then how does the practice week leading up to the game look? And you kind of go through those steps, and you got to check all those boxes. And there's a landmine on each one of those that you could step on and have them be out for the week or more. And that's why we do what we do here.
So one more quarterback talk. I mentioned this, and I guess this could enter but Aaron Rodgers missed the week 9 game against the on the COVID list. He did test positive. Oh yeah, you didn't know you were aware that was that.
What happened to Aaron Rodgers last week? I didn't hear anything about it. What?
Oh, okay. He was COVID. So
he had COVID.
Let's not make fun of him too hard. I don't know. We know he had. I don't know. He might still have it. He might not. That's true. I don't know personally.
Was he?
He's immunized.
Immunized. His immune system was.
So he got vaccinated, right?
Immunized.
Those don't necessarily mean the same thing.
Apparently not.
They can say not in this case.
Oh, that Aaron
Tried
Rodgers.
to skate on a technicality. Aaron Rodgers, you wascally wabbit you.
He's been taught a few things about acting, old Aaron. It's all in how you spin it, right?
What a wily veteran. He's
hey,
like,
I mean,
Fox. That's why he's such a cerebral quarterback. He's so smart. I love it.
Let's maybe let's shout out to not so good journalism, to him say one thing and it never be addressed. No one ever asked him about it. I do wonder if that, if someone actually pushed and asked, if he would have explained it and been forthcoming, right? But it was so arrogant, he knew no one would ask, right? So
Kyle, Mr. Green Bay fan over here, are you
such a good point. I think there is a learning. There is a learning point here.
Are you saying that the Green Bay media just whimsically let Aaron Rodgers say whatever he wanted in the press conference 6-7 months ago? So, he's good. Are you saying that they might have let him get away with something? Just he's good. He's fine.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely don't want to piss him off, but no.
They don't want to say anything, do they? No, he's good.
Guess not.
No, he's fine.
Guess not. Just like the team, it seems like, anyway. But yes, so for fantasy purposes, obviously he missed last game. It seems like he could be cleared on Saturday, so the day before their next game. It is a home game, so they wouldn't have to try. But really don't know if he's going to play until Saturday. So that does complicate things. So Gladys, let's take Jacoby Brissett out of it, and then we can add him in at the end. But let's say we get the news Saturday that Rodgers isn't playing, and you've got access to Jordan Love, Colt McCoy, PJ Walker, Mike White, and we'll throw in CJ Beathard just because. But if of those quarterbacks you want to pick as your streamer for the week,
I would probably pick Jordan Love going against Seattle Seahawks defense. I mean, I don't think he played that bad. It was his first game in. I don't think they did him any favors by the calls they were making for him to play. I would go with Jordan Love against Seattle, without a doubt. His
timing just looked a little bit off.
Yeah, I mean, but that's to be expected. He had one practice with the ones.
From everything that I saw from the game, from when he was passing, he was a half a yard too far on a pass or half a yard too short on a pass. As he said
yesterday against the Broncos.
He wasn't the worst quarterback yesterday, was he? But it kind of looked like, and as he said, admittedly, in the last quarter, towards the end of the third quarter, into the fourth, you could see him starting to get in a groove. They started to play a bit quicker. Mm-hmm. He was a little bit more decisive. Okay, I saw enough from Love to be encouraged, at least, to know that that'll get better. He'll have his ups and downs, but he'll look. Yeah, if Brissett's off the table, then Love for me is easy. How do you not want a quarterback with Adams, Jones, Dylan for the dump off, Even Cobb looked good. Like
against the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Like,
One of the first round pick.
Well, to be fair, we said that about Jacksonville a week ago, and they got absolutely pantsed by them. So, we expect more from Trevor Lawrence and Laviska Shenault. And he's 1 for 22. It's very good.
So Gladys, would the answer still be Jordan Love if you're, say, having to make this decision for waivers, and again, knowing Jacoby Brissett's playing Thursday, let's say you can add Brissett into that list. Are you still Love, or does it change to Brissett? Like with all indications that he's getting the start Thursday.
I would still go with Love. You guys know I don't like to play guys on Thursday. I mean,
that's fair.
Dan made a really good argument, and it was very persuasive. And if I was that person who was like, let me play this guy on Thursday, I would go with Brissett. But I just don't like shooting my whole wad on Thursday. So I would go with Love. I would still go with Love.
I'd agree with you in this case as well. I think if I had a choice between Brissett and Love, he'd be the one guy that I'd waver with, and I'd go, yeah, all right. We know what Brissett
supporting cast.
Yeah, I can't argue with what the Packers can do.
Yeah,
and they started to look better. Brissett will get Miami to maybe 21.
Yeah.
And you're hoping for a lot of work from Gaskin and Waddle after the catch to help you get there. But with Adams and MVS, Lazard, Cobb, Jones, Dillon,
he's got a big supporting cast.
You got to think that he's got that out of his. Kansas isn't an easy place to go to. Not on your debut, and now you get Seattle. And where are they at Seattle? Are they at Seattle or Green Bay?
They're in Green Bay.
They're at home.
I think another week for him, if he got the nod, you'd feel fairly comfortable next week with Love. Yeah.
Those last two drives in the fourth quarter,
they look good.
Looked a lot better, other than the on the one. But other than that, it seemed like he was advancing the football, making good decisions. Like he was kind of getting used to the speed of the blitz, and it wasn't kind of overwhelming him.
Interceptions on the one.
And you know what, Ryan, keeping us on with the injuries, because we were going to get to a few receivers here.
Yeah.
I know one player I wanted to get to before we talked about receivers, because it was mentioned, was Chase Edmonds. So high ankle sprain. I guess the question here is there a serious concern that is out for the rest of the fantasy season?
I don't know about that, but let me touch on two things with quarterbacks real quick. So Russell Wilson, he's cleared to practice. It looks like he might actually play this week. They're just going to kind of see how it goes. But it is definitely very encouraging with that complex fractured surgical repair of his finger. If he can throw the ball in practice.
It went down a point. When they announced that he was cleared to practice, it was 4.5. Now it's 3.5. So Vegas thinks he's playing.
They think he's playing, and I think he's playing too. As long as he can throw, because that was the whole issue. When you tear the tendon there, you can't straighten out your finger. So when he was throwing the ball, he couldn't throw it correctly. Now I think that's not an issue anymore. So I think he's going to play too. Just not guaranteed, but it's trending in the right direction. And it's been about 5 weeks, so that's right what we were thinking when he got injured. With Aaron Rodgers, just wanted to touch on this because this is educational for the entire fantasy community. When players, coaches, and team officials, and I know this, I'm not pandering to anybody or talking down to anybody, just a reminder, they're not under oath. So the players, coaches, team officials are not obligated to tell the truth ever. So it's like people get really worked up when they find out that people are either they commit lies of omission or commission. And so Aaron Rodgers lied about his vaccination status. He's not in court. He doesn't have to tell the truth. So yeah, he lied. It is what it is. Players lie. They lie about stuff all the time. So learning how to read between the lines and use your own critical thinking is a really important skill to develop as a fantasy football player, because these things are going to continue to happen. He has probably lied before, and he probably will lie again. And so a lot of other players and coaches and team administrators and staff. So it's good to be able to kind of pick those things out and not just be like, ooh, he didn't tell the truth. Yeah, he didn't. And it's probably going to happen again.
What's that line from Seinfeld? It's not a lie if you believe it.
It's not a lie if you believe it. Yeah. Exactly. So that's exactly right. So, and
what do you believe is the severity of the Chase Edmonds injury? It seems like we don't know much yet.
Good transition. So this is the real deal, high ankle sprain. We've been over this many times, but we know how this song goes. So expect an IR stint and a 4 to 5 week absence. The one thing that I want to call out is even though James Conner dropped a 40 burger this week, he is not exactly known for his durability. And Gladys will back me up on this with his time with the Steelers. So one guy that you want to put on your waiver wire radar, you don't necessarily want to pick him up now, but take a look at Eno Benjamin because Chase Edmonds is not coming back anytime soon. And if James Conner all of a sudden reverts back to Tin Man status, then Eno Benjamin could all of a sudden be the beneficiary of a lot of playing time and, with a high-powered offense. So just somebody to kind of, put the little check mark next to him and check back in a week or two, especially if James Conner gets nicked up.
So Wheeler's that we should put. I guess Wheeler's a really good ranker, so we should all kind of pay attention to him saying get. So might be
get him
a
now.
priority.
If you got space for him, it's definitely a good spec pickup.
I'm all about that life. Get him
he's going to be the backup running back, right? Every backup running back should probably be rostered, at least, unless it's a really bad offense.
He's probably going to get some carries because I don't think they're just going to give everything to James Conner.
Also might be the pass catching back because they really haven't been throwing at Conner very much. That more Edmonds role. So if anything, Benjamin's biggest contributions might be to the passing game.
For sure. Didn't he have like 7 targets last night? 7, and 1.
He can do it. It's just they have to be concerned about keeping him healthy now, especially with Edmonds going to be out for that long. He's going to. I think Benjamin's going to get some work.
We're saying Duke Johnson to 5'5", 77 and 1. Receiving.
Yeah,
that's James Conner.
Wow.
That's to think about. That's on top of 21 carries. That's what 26 touches for him, which
that's probably a season high for him in targets.
I think it is.
The most it had is 2 in a game.
So that'll be interesting to see. Is that just a nature of they only didn't throw him because they had Edmonds there, that is maybe Benjamin.
Maybe, but
okay. So I guess Wheeler got a lot of 25th round Eno Benjamin. So that's the kind of
there you go,
round flyer.
That's what we like. That's what we like to see.
Yeah.
So
James Conner hasn't had over 20 touches either. 20 touches. That's the first time he's gone over combined. He'd hit 20 before 18 and 2. That's it.
He had 6 catches entering this game. Yeah. So he's basically doubled his season total in receptions almost. He went from 6 to 11 in one game. So, again, I guess this will be a little test, right? Is it only been because Edmonds has been there, or is it just the lack of confidence and they want to put Benjamin in that role? So that'll be interesting to see. Now, Eno Benjamin or any of the Titans, Adrian Peterson, Jeremy McNichols, Dante Foreman. We go with Eno Benjamin or any of those guys? And if going with the Titans back, which Titans?
Kyler Murray thing too. I mean, if Kyler Murray comes back, is Conner going? Conner was the red zone guy with Kyler Murray there. So if Kyler Murray comes back, I don't think he's going to see that kind of volume either.
Yeah, for me, it's about making these speculative plays. You don't know how it's going to turn out, right? We don't know. There's a lot of unknowns with Kyler Murray. We know that Chase Edmonds is going to be out. Sometimes you roll the dice with these guys and you get Khalil Herbert and he has a couple of really good games. And sometimes you roll the dice or you get Devontae Booker. And then sometimes you roll the dice and you get, lots of other people who didn't really turn out to be much. Demetric Felton, so it's you take your shots and you hope for the best.
No Hopkins, no Green either. It's not like their resources were so there's no Murray, Edmonds goes down, no Hopkins, no Green.
Mm-hmm.
Their resources really consolidated to Ertz more.
Connor.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot because of how they were being used. So that was a very condensed Cardinals offense, just so it still managed to absolutely smash San Francisco, which was great. Take that, Shanahan.
So I think Peterson has maybe the ceiling, as he gets again, he was a 37-year-old. It was his first game in over a full year. I think as he gets into rhythm, that's going to be the guy you're going to want more. So I'd probably prioritize it Peterson, then Eno Benjamin, then McNichols, then Foreman, because I see maybe having this, like, if Benjamin's the pass catcher, that's maybe what McNichols is going to be for the Titans, the pass catching back. So it's really just the preference between the two. Maybe McNichols over, like, that's almost one where you almost would prefer Murray to be out a little bit. It'd be Colt McCoy. He won't be running as much. Again, 7 rushing attempts. So it's some of the that's like some games with Murray this year, but he may be more inclined to dump off to the backs. So, I
like where your head's at with it. I probably would go Peterson, McNichol, Benjamin, and then whoever the other guy was that you said.
Dante Foreman.
Dante Foreman.
He's
he would be left.
Alive.
He's still there. Hey, Achilles injury coming back from it. So speaking of coming back,
did you want to touch on Hopkins?
Yeah, go ahead. On who?
Like, just because we were talking about the Cardinals, did you want to touch on Hopkins at all, the hamstring injury?
Yeah, let me rapid fire through the running backs, and then we only have a couple of pass catchers, and then we can get on to the game prep. So Devontae Booker said he was fine after the game. They got a bye week anyway, but he's still going to see a doctor about his hip, so not out of the woods there yet. They got a bye week next week, and I expect Saquon to finally be back after that. So it was fun while it lasted. He was double-digit PPR points in every game for the last 5 weeks, but we just got to wait and see with that. We have a trifecta of head injuries. The dynamic duo of the Patriots, Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, both left the game with head injuries. See if they go into the concussion protocol, watch practice reports. Brandon Bolden becomes very interesting, and maybe even J.J. Taylor, who was inactive for this game, so he couldn't be involved at all, may become active and may have a role. So another guy to look out for. Bolden and J.J. Taylor are interesting if they're both out. Zach Moss got a concussion. He's in the protocol, so Devin Singletary could be a big beneficiary there. And then last but certainly not least, James Robinson still dealing with the ankle, heel, bruise, contusion, not really sure what's going on there thing. He could play week 10, but it's not a guarantee, so don't sell all those Carlos Hyde shares short just yet. Just watch practice reports and see what happens there. And then we can move on to the pass catchers.
So we'll start with Ryan's question here, talking about Antonio Brown. We can use like both Bucks here, Antonio Brown and Gronkowski. So like I know there's the picture with Brown in the walking boot and crutches. Gronk's been dealing with a ton of injuries now. It seems like there was a rib issue, but now it's back to his back issues, which something that I found a couple of years ago back with the Patriots. Back to Doc. I guess. So my question is, who are you more concerned with, Brown, Gronk, in terms of who you think from this point is still more time? And then I guess, like Ryan's asking if we think Brown's more serious and potentially, like, could the Bucks just shut him out for the rest of the regular season, including the fantasy season playoffs? So Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, what's going on with those Pirates? Yeah,
it's a really good question. I would hate to have a gun to my head and say which one do I think is going to be back first, because they're both looking kind of trepidatious. But Antonio Brown still being in the walking boot. He missed week 7 and week 8 ahead of the bye, and it's not looking great for week 10 now and maybe beyond. So I'm definitely getting worried about what's going on there, and the fact that he's still wearing a walking boot. This is really scary, like finding out, something in the heel area, one of the ligaments, that's injured. Those are, in some cases, they're really strong ligaments. So it takes a pretty large amount of force to injure those. Not talking about like a regular ankle sprain, but like ligaments on the inside of the ankle. They're pretty big and they're pretty strong. So when those get injured, that takes a lot of force, and that means a lot of things can be disrupted down there. I like where Kevin's head is at. By Tyler Johnson. Yeah, he's really interesting. 5 catches, 6 targets, 65 yards. You want a piece of that offense. He's really interesting. And Antonio Brown has me very worried for the next few weeks and maybe beyond. Maybe they hold him out, or maybe he just doesn't make it back. Maybe this turns out to be something that needs surgery. I'm kind of getting a little bit of Michael Thomas feeling going on here, and I'm not liking that. That's usually not a good feeling to have. At least not as good as it was like 2 years ago. And it's gotten a lot worse. So not liking that at all. And with Gronk, it's kind of the same thing. Like, he made it back for that whatever BS emergency red flag goal line use thing, where I've learned over time, and this year especially has hammered it home, especially if it's a tight end and they're like, we're only going to use him on the goal line, and for emergency, you like don't start him. Like just don't. Like that's got like you're getting a goose egg written all over it. And that's basically what happened. In the one game that he did play after he missed 4 games, played that one game for like 5 snaps, got a 0, and now they had the bye, and they're still not confident that he's going to be okay coming out of the bye, which is never a good sign. So both of these guys looking really scary, and Tampa Bay doesn't really need them right now, so they can give them all the time in the world to heal up if they're going to make it back. And they both could have really significant injuries. So, cross your fingers and hope for the best, but I'm definitely getting nervous that we're not going to see these guys anytime soon, and, kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop type thing. So that's the somewhat, elongated answer for me saying I could have just said, I don't know, but I wanted to add some context to it, but that's why I don't know, but I'm definitely concerned. Like I'm very concerned.
It's so much so that you can't really rely on either. Like if you, as fantasy managers, you kind of have to accept that you might not have them for the rest of the season. Contingency plans. With Brown at wide receivers, you can usually get it like usually deep enough at receiver like that you can roster it. Gronk, where it really gets complicated, start one position type. Are you that concerned with Gronk that, let's say, you need the roster spot, cutting Gronk, thinking that he may not be serviceable at all the rest of the season? Are you almost sabotage dropping him, daring someone to pick him up and use up Gronk as a roster spot?
I don't know if I would go that far, but I think it really depends on your team, your team record. So if you're in a situation where you're 3-5, 4-5, 3-6, something like that, and you're fighting for a playoff spot, you need the roster spot. I think you got to make moves. If you're, 6 and whatever, what week are we in now? Week 9, so 6-3, 7-2, 8-1. And you got some weeks to play with where you could just eat it for a week and it's not going to kill your playoff chances, then maybe you could ride it out a little bit further and just try to get more clarity on the situation before you do anything, as absolute as cutting the guy. Yes, Dan.
If you are one of those teams that does have Rob Gronkowski and you are doing well, you should still be looking to improve that position. Like I don't like the homerism, but 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks, Evan Ingram, Kyle Rudolph.
Oh, wow.
These are guys that are like probably out on waiver wires that are active within their team's terrible passing game.
1,000%.
Right. Like if you're not sure Gronk is coming back, you can still make an addition of another tight end.
Yeah. Somebody else to consider is Logan Thomas, because we haven't heard from him in a while. He just worked out today for the first time, and he was on IR. They just had a bye week. I'm pretty sure lots of people have forgotten about him, especially more casual leagues. So go ahead and take a peek and see if he's hanging out there. Again, one of those teams, Dawson Knox, did he get dropped when he broke his hand? He's probably still a couple of weeks away, but he can make it back in a couple of weeks and give you a boost.
Speaking of preseason darlings, Adam Troutman, I think, played this week. Juwan Johnson did not. So we're talking about tight ends. That could be a name to watch as the season goes on as well. I bet he was a guy that was being picked up in like the 10th, 11th round of a lot of redraft leagues. I would bet that he got dropped a week or 2 ago easily. So just names to keep
7 yards.
Yeah, there you go. So like
season high in targets and catches.
Yeah, and he's like snap shares coming up, routes are coming up. It took him a while to get going. But to know that Juwan Johnson wasn't active this week, and that's a guy that everyone bombed their fab on week 1. He wasn't active. He was healthy. It was a healthy scratch. Troutman was their tight end this week. So, I mean, that's something to keep an eye on if you're looking at these things as the season's going on. If you're not sure Gronk's coming back, but you don't want to drop him, there are viable tight ends that might have a good run in still there.
Gladys, we got a question for you from Ryan. Do you think Big Ben's arm is going to be okay after Monday night going into the Lions game?
I don't know why you'd pick him up for any game, quite honestly, Ryan. So no, don't do it. Don't pick him up with the Lions. And I know it should be a smash spot, but there are I think 10 better quarterbacks that you could play that week in week 10.
Najee Harris in DFS next week, I think will be. I don't know if he'll be so because the Lions, I believe, have allowed the most fantasy points points to running backs this year. I think like the aim didn't really stop either. It really helped
Right.
that. Like they couldn't stop any of them.
Let me check.
Yeah, no, Ryan, don't do it. Don't.
I don't need to check. The lines are just bad.
Wheeler's got about 35% Troutman in best balls, so yeah.
A lot of people invested in him, and their returns have not been great. So maybe this is where it all turns around.
It's the long game, Kev.
That's it. It's all about Eno Benjamin and Adam Troutman going to take it home.
Yeah,
So
we all
I
saw that
think
coming.
that, Kyle, people didn't get your message about Twitter because I have Sour Patch K21 is DMing me that we missed his last 2 comments, but I think he's commenting on Twitter.
So just to refresh everyone.
Okay, I'll do it.
The Twitter comments aren't working. That's the short story. So if you're on Twitter, they're not going to go these issues.
What?
So, so find us on Twitch, find us on YouTube, or Facebook, I believe, works as well. So if you want to interact with us, then find us on one of those platforms. Restream said that the fix is coming, but then again, Christmas is coming as well. So I don't know what to make of that. But right now,
Antonio coming back too. We don't know when.
Exactly. Antonio Brown and Gronk are coming back too. It might be in 2023, but they're coming back.
Pete Carroll said that Restream's on the way back. Don't worry.
Yeah, Pete Carroll said that Restream's looking good. They should be ready to go next week. So yeah. But that's the story. So apologies for anybody out there that's commenting on Twitter. We swear we're not ignoring you. We love you. Thank you for all the questions and comments. But we're not seeing them. So find us on one of the other platforms and reach out.
Or Gladys, did you? Oh yeah, and like Wheeler saying, smash that like button, subscribe as well to the Going for Two Live Network. All those again supports the channel. But Gladys, did the DM question was or just?
He just said that I asked him to DM me, but he hasn't yet. He said he thinks you skipped his last 2 comments, and he was sad.
Okay, so we'll just we'll wait to see if he if he shows up other streams or if he asks you directly there. But just talk. You were talking about like what's the team like and the distinctions they're saying. Yeah. So the words emergency use only in certain packs.
Yeah,
that's kind of a red flag. But I think one thing we learned this week. When they're said, they're going to be on a pitch count, that didn't seem to hold true. Like George Kittle was supposed to be on a pitch count, and he ran 1 this week. Christian McCaffrey was supposed to be on a pitch count, and he had 100 yards from scrimmage. He receiver on the team. So I think
both those teams were losing too. I mean, I think you're on a pitch count if you're ahead. You're on a pitch count if you're winning.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's no such thing as a pitch count, especially in a competitive division that San Fran is supposed to be in. That's
maybe
just
a different
my
story. If they're true, maybe a different story if their teams are winning. But it does seem like with those star players, if they're back and they're said they're going to be on a pitch count, like Montgomery would have been tricky tonight because you had to wait until tonight to find out.
Yeah,
but for guys
really, the Monday night thing really adds a level of difficulty to that whole thing.
Yikes.
So were there any other injuries we didn't really touch on? I think Darrell Henderson and Zeke both had little bit. They left the game, came back. So we're thinking unless we see something in practice reports or not practicing at all, there really shouldn't be any concern with Henderson or Zeke.
Right, exactly. And what we can move on to real quick is we'll just hit on the rest of the wide receivers. So DeAndre Hopkins finally missed the game, so it was serious with his hamstring. He missed week 9 after being in and out of week 8. They might have just said Kyler's going to be out. Let's give DeAndre Hopkins a rest too, and we'll hopefully get them both back in a week or 2. So we just got to watch the practice reports for whatever it's worth. If Kyler's playing and DeAndre Hopkins is playing, he's in my lineup. Michael Gallup with his calf injury, been out since week 1. It's been about 2 months, and they were being extra cautious with him. And looks like he's finally going to be back out there this week. I think he's worth firing up if he plays. But if he gets hurt again, it's probably going to be a lost season for him. I think if he re-tears his calf, I think it's going to be another 2 months and season's over. So a little bit of increased risk there, but I think he's worth firing up if you don't have better options. If you do have better options and you want to give it a week, I wouldn't fault you. But I'm definitely excited for him to be back out there, especially with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb both kind of dealing with minor injuries and still kind of gutting it out themselves, and Zeke as well. And then last but certainly not least, Mr. Odell Beckham. His divorce with the Browns was finalized today. The only thing that I want to add before I turn it over to you guys is lost amongst all of this drama that he cannot seem to get away from is, let's not forget that he allegedly still has a grade 3 AC joint sprain, which is a complete tear of all of the ligaments in his shoulder. And this is a severe injury and is really being underplayed. And it was something he was dealing with for the weeks before he started his exit strategy from Cleveland. So this is eventually going to require surgery, and he's going to be very limited in what he does, even when he does get out there, whatever team he decides to destroy next. So with that, with that medical perspective, I now turn it over to you.
Yeah. I mean, like this fantasy wise, I mean, I think in redraft I think you can safely drop him. Dynasty, you may still want to hold out because it's probably not the end of his NFL career, but like, what's the upside at this point?
You want to drop Beckham before waivers? You don't want to know where he goes first?
Does he even get claimed on waivers? Do teams just say on him this year?
I don't think I'm dropping.
I guess you're right. You don't need to drop him because like you're like your own league's waivers won't have to go through by that point. You'll have that knowledge. But let's say he goes unclaimed. Like let's say this isn't resolved tomorrow. Like I think if like by the time your fantasy waivers are set to run Wednesday and he's still not on a team, I think he might be to cut. It might be saying maybe like what you're saying, Doc. Teams might be scared of that injury as well as all the off-field stuff. Like, is any team in the hunt? Like I know we talked about this on full press coverage yesterday morning. How many teams are in the hunt that feel like they need Beckham to go take them over? And I guess especially if they claim him off waivers, how many of them have the cap space to even take on the contract? So
there's only a handful, right? There's only a handful of teams that had the space. There was like 7 or 8 teams that had the space, and then they said 7.5 or whatever.
Yeah, I think it'd be clear.
Yeah, and then how many of those are actually teams?
5 million.
I'll tell you, there was one team that caught my eye that no one has actually mentioned, and I feel like they are a third receiver away. I feel like he would be an addition because it feels like they just lack that little bit of oomph to their offense. And to be honest, it's a team that needs a bit of star power. I'd love to see him with the Chargers because that's a team in a division that they need to get over the hump that is the Kansas City Chiefs. That is one thing. I feel like they need to sell that stadium out, and he will do it. He's box office. That's another thing. But if you're telling me that he can take more pressure off Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, they're not that big. I mean, Parham does all right. Was he the tight end 4 this week or something stupid, right? Not Jared Cook.
Jared Cook had a good week too.
Like he could be someone that just for the better. I feel like no one's talking. They're saying Seattle or New Orleans or whatever. The Chargers claim him. I think that's.
I'm still hung up on the part where you said they have no star power, and then you said Keenan Allen, Austin
Eckler,
and Mike Williams. They got this quarterback. He's pretty good. I don't know if you heard about him.
None of those guys are actively going to go out to go sell tickets, right?
The casual NFL fan doesn't know their names.
That's it. He's going to get more eyes on their product. I know we don't like it. We don't like to say that because it's not as like it's not the on-field product. It's the off-field in that regard. But he is going to get more eyes on their games. And the Chargers, San Diego, if I will, have always had an issue with that, right? And their move to LA. I get it. It couldn't have come at a worse time with COVID. Like at least the Rams, they kind of had that with McVay and Gurley and all those guys. They kind of had it when they were to LA. They had a rookie in Herbert that quiet as a mouse. Keenan Allen, you never hear from him. Mike Williams, you never hear from him. We hear from Austin Eckler because he's in the fantasy circle now. You don't hear from none of those guys. None of them. He's a guy that will attract attention to a franchise like that needs it. They need it. Okay. And if you're telling me that as a third receiver like Jalen Guyton, Josh Palmer, something happens to Williams or Allen, they're in trouble. That's all I'm saying, and you don't have to rush him back.
It's really good analysis. I was gonna pick on you for going into full defensive tap dance mode, and I was gonna be like, for a big guy, you could really tap dance well, but that's actually a really good analysis.
I can move.
Wheeler say he wouldn't want OBJ stay around his young QB, but maybe the lead Staley is enough to kind of keep that in line. But
I get it, and I understand why that wouldn't be the greatest idea for Herbert. But if you're telling me that, he wouldn't need that, like a guy like Beckham as well, like they're open about wanting to throw the ball. Stefanski isn't. His numbers show that he doesn't want to chuck it about. They run. That's what they do. That's what they want to be.
Yeah.
You know, they take the odd long shot to Peoples-Jones, Schwartz, or whatever. They show that they don't want to do that. The Chargers do. It's just that they kind of, at times, it feels like they lack that quality when they go to Guyton or Palmer or whoever, that third receiver. It feels like they're missing that one extra piece. He could be a huge difference maker for them. That's what I'm saying.
So Palmer, Eno, Benjamin, and Troutman. That's Wheeler's best ball stashes at the end. But do you have a question,
I'm praying for you.
Hey, Kev, when you take down the puppy, make sure you save some money after you pay your taxes to buy a copy of my book. That's all I'm saying.
Injuries suck, but your fantasy team doesn't have to. By the great Dr. James Freddy.
Get on Amazon.
So we're Monday night preview, I think, apparently on the show or something. I think Ryan is getting us to there, saying how many sacks will the Steelers have tonight? I just looked it up, and the Bears do have allowed the most sacks in the NFL, 30 through 8 games. So that's about that's 3.5 per game. So I don't know if the over under is set at 3.5, but it's you might be able to say over there. I could see it being 4 sacks.
Monkey knife fight 3.5. 3.5, and it's like for both teams. So
I'm okay if they can have 7 if they want, as long as TJ Watt doesn't get 1. My IDP league's depending on it. That's just me.
Yeah. So yeah, I think first off, those 3.5 sacks, I kind of like the over.
I don't like my chances either.
Doc, I don't know how you get to a question here from soon.
I was reading it. I was trying to come up with something, and nothing's clicking for me.
All right. Okay, so let's just get to this question. So, trying to trade for Lockett or Metcalf. How do I do that with my squad? Both of them because playing the Lions in the final week. So they're 7-2, already thinking of playoffs. And okay, what is this team going to look like in the fantasy playoffs? So they have Darren Waller, Freiermuth at tight end. You got Gaskin, Harris, Fournette, Emmanuel Sanders, Tyreek Hill, Higgins, Julio, Bateman, Russell Gage, and Will Fuller at wide receiver. So yeah, I guess that context is important. I
feel
would
like
guess redraft, but yeah,
I'm guessing redraft.
Do correct us if we're wrong there. So under the assumption that it is redraft, get Lockett or Metcalf here. So what does the other team need, right? Like that could be something where if the other needs a tight end, is Darren Waller the thing to dangle there for one of them? And that's okay. I've got the tight end position set now, even if it costs me a starting receiver. And then, I guess the Steelers coming off the bye, you don't have to worry about Freiermuth's bye anymore, and you kind of just ride the waves with the rookie tight end there, or stream from there on. Okay, so yeah, mentioning it is redraft. So that's my first instinct, is like that might be the thing that team's missing. Now, if that team has an elite tight end, that's not the way to go about it. Because I don't know that any other piece would get you Metcalf, Lockett straight up. Then it's about packaging, and then it's all about, does that other manager want to do it 2 for 1? Do they want one of those elite assets to get 2 pieces that aren't as good? I guess Tyreek Hill is really the only one that would equal them. So I guess if you want them that bad, are you willing to give up Tyreek Hill? That might be the way to get it done. If you give up Hill to get Lockett plus another player, your starting lineup. If you really believe that week 16.
Gladys said what everyone else was thinking.
Yeah, I would not give up
not Tyreek Hill. How about Darren Waller? That's the one I'm thinking of. Darren Waller might be the way to get that
process. That's a good thought process. Not that the other one was a bad thought process. I just wouldn't do it. But I like where your head is at with the Darren Waller thing. His value, I think, is better than like his performance up to this point, because the Raiders are actually a better team, and they don't have to funnel everything through him this year. I like where your head's at with that.
I don't think you're a chance at moving Gage or Fuller.
Yeah.
Julio'd be lucky. You could sell Bateman as upside with maybe T. Higgins.
Yeah, I was
If you
thinking
wanted
one
to
of
go,
those guys
they were
too.
the two
Higgins.
guys that I'd be
and-
looking like. I love T. Higgins and I love the volume he's getting, so I don't want to
Yeah.
mess with that because you can't guarantee. Oh, you can. Oh, yes, if Wilson's back, but like even Sanders would be an interesting name in there as well. If you're only starting 2 or 3 receivers and then you got that flex, you've got a lot of guys just there doing nothing. Bateman might have that upside where you could use him almost because of his cachet and move him with a Higgins or a Sanders to try and get that. But even still, like, I don't know how much I'd be willing to part with a Metcalf or Lockett, not knowing that I get Wilson back after riding the Geno Smith train. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'd be wanting to move that.
It might be
Easy.
tough to get those
All right,
guys.
here you go. I got it. So he said the Metcalf guy has Dan Arnold. So I'd say Darren Waller and Julio Jones for Metcalf.
Straight up. Why would you give up? No, I don't like that.
Okay.
I would go straight up. Try Waller.
Okay, yeah, you could start there and
You know
then
what?
you could throw in
You
Julio
know what?
Jones if you really want to get it done.
If that's the case, if you're throwing Waller at this guy for Metcalf, I want Arnold back as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I would,
okay.
he's giving up a lot more than you're
No,
getting.
I'm just saying because Arnold's been getting that volume too. He's done okay.
That's not unreasonable.
Yeah,
But I would
So,
certainly
in that regard,
unload
because I
Julio
want that.
Jones and his
So-
bulky 33-year-old hamstrings while you still can. And if you're getting Metcalf back, that kind of takes care of that. If you get Dan Arnold back, so I would do Waller and Julio Jones for Metcalf and Dan Arnold, and I'd be happy with that.
I would
Lose
try-
the battle
Even less
to win
than
the war,
Julio.
my friend.
Start with Gage, maybe with Ridley and the uncertainty
You
there.
could
Maybe try
trade.
that one.
You could trade Russell.
Waller.
I don't know if you could trade Russell Gage for a fun-sized Snickers bar right now. And I might be the biggest Russell Gage fan out there. And if anybody
That's a
offered
good
me a
Snickers
Russell
bar.
Gage in a trade, I would find out where they lived and toilet paper. I'd pay somebody $500 to toilet paper their house.
I would happily trade for Julio Jones's 33-year-old bulky hamstrings, mate. Mine is shot. I take him all day.
All right, so like Waller and Julio for Metcalf and Dan Arnold, or like the other one you were suggesting, Doc, maybe Higgins and Bateman to get Lockett, and maybe another piece back from like those would be maybe the 2 ways to go about it. I know Ryan
You
likes
got
your
something
fun-sized
there.
Snicker bar.
You got
I'm
something
gonna-
there.
Once I
I'm
Snickers
gonna-
bar was good.
I think you guys know I'm not a Lockett guy anyway. Oof.
Yeah,
So,
but
I
he's
don't know. I
got
think
that
I'd rather
explosivity
Higgins.
that you want in the playoffs. You know, he could just go out and
Dan.
go ham and win you the week.
I'm taking Higgins. What do you have, like 15 targets the other week?
He did.
He's
He
getting
did.
some crazy volume.
Now, he's
like,
exciting.
Whether
But
they're winning or
The
losing,
question
they're
what he
shocking.
said he said he wanted Lockett or Metcalf because they're playing the Lions in finals week. So.
What do you say, Doc? What do you say? Sometimes the first move is the one you don't make.
Oh, 1,000%. But
I kind of
I
like
don't
what.
know.
Of course, I like what Wheeler's saying here. The running back guy, right? He's saying trade for a running back instead of the receiver. It's the best running back Jared Waller could get you, and then maybe that's the way because. Like right now, their RB1 is asking like this team maybe like that RB1 might be
Lombardi Lenny's is number one.
yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, you can almost say Damian Harris actually.
Damian Harris, as long as he
Concussion issue, right?
he
I don't care.
doesn't have any permanent brain damage.
So how about these 2 trades? He traded away Beasley to get T. Higgins. I think we all think that's pretty. And then Dalton Schultz and Ryan Edwards to get Julio.
That's fair. I get it. I get it.
Knowing you have as well, like the context there.
Decent. I know.
Get
Gerson
the upside
would
with
like that.
Julio.
Gerson would like
Yeah,
that.
I guess. Well, yeah, he'd love Julio to pair with Waller. Gerson would count about that. Yes. Okay. So the game's already started, so we didn't even do any props before this Monday game. But like, I guess we can go through and talk about the Twitter results.
We didn't get to the props,
make those.
Send all your thank yous to @TFSDoc because you didn't have to listen to my props and then play them and then be wrong. So by not putting the props out there, we probably saved you a lot of money. So you're welcome.
This is an interesting one. Wheeler's saying he'd try and sell Tyreek for a stud running back. Hang on to Waller, say strengthen through tight end, and try and get as good of a running back as you can for Tyreek.
Kyle, you're an RB guy. What running back what would be the lowest running back that you would trade that you would trade Tyreek Hill away for?
Right circumstances, you could get anything for it.
That's what I'm thinking, but I want to know what Kyle thinks.
Lowest. Okay.
Yeah, so that's your line.
Again,
Could you,
redraft.
let me ask. Carl, could you get Aaron Jones for Tyreek Hill?
I feel like you could get that.
What about?
That be a little too low. Like,
would you do that? You got Tyreek Hill. You want a running back. You would. Okay.
Not with AJ Dillon there. No, I think I want a better running back than Aaron Jones.
You want a better running back. Okay. So it's not Aaron Jones. So it's
I think I'd go higher. My threshold, because Tyreek, like I still have Tyreek as like this week as receiver 2, like probably rest of my season ranking same thing. So
unpopular opinion. I reckon there's someone in your league that has Barkley that's trying to get rid of him. That's a way to buy low, maybe. It's risky. He'll be back after their bye week, so you might have to eat a week. But you might not have you might not have to lose a lot to get him in redraft.
That is true.
You know what I mean?
Tyreek also does have a bye week coming.
I'm not saying I wouldn't get rid of Tyreek. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying you might not have to eat losing Tyreek.
Oh, I see. You might not have to acquire Saquon Barkley
to get him. That's what I would say. If he's back after their bye, that's something I'd probably risk. But
Tyreek still has a bye. Najee Harris is one I might look to target. They've already had their bye week. Like, it seems like the O-line is definitely better than what it was last year. They're not dead last, so that's good. And like, seems like he's getting volume. So Chubb, Wheeler's saying Nick Chubb. That's another one. Could you get Alvin Kamara?
He's definitely doing that trade.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely get Nick Chubb if I can
on that trade.
Kamara, like I said,
right now, the last couple of weeks he hasn't been doing toy. It could get you Eckler.
Yep, I'd probably do that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Because there's only a handful
I think
of guys that are like 20 points. I think only a handful of running backs. Aaron
Jones, Barkley might be the line. Those would be like the guys where I'm not really willing to do it anymore. That's why I'd need something added to to those sides to kind of move off of Hill. But yeah, give me Kamara, Chubb, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, any of those guys straight up for Tyreek. So
what about Mixon? RB5
in redraft, yeah, I think so.
Kyle's doing it. Yeah, I knew he was doing
that. Dynasty, no way, but yeah. And most of those guys I wouldn't do it for Dynasty, but yeah, it's a totally different question. Okay, so for those props, again, Dan set up all those polls for us. So we'll at least go run through them and see what the people.
Humor me.
Sorry?
Humor me.
Oh, humor you. I'll try and say something funny. But yeah, so we go start with the passing yard. Justin Fields, Ben Roethlisberger. I guess first off, the game. I did actually make these graphics. So over under, was it set at 40, Dan?
Yeah, it was 39.5 just come up.
Okay, point, because it was 39.5. Steelers favored by 7.
Is he?
I think that's it. So anyway, with that, talking about the quarterback lines. So they've got again, this is from BetMGM, I think. Anyway, Justin Fields, 180 and a half yards, so 180.5, or sorry, has come up to 184.5. So that went up 4 yards. Over the last 24 hours, Dan?
Yeah. So when we did the poll, it was 180.5. It's come up by 4.
Okay.
Interesting.
And then Ben was at 255 and actually went down by 2 yards since the polls come out.
Yeah, they must have liked what they saw. Yeah.
So anyway, the poll winner actually was Fields at 37% over, and then second was Fields 30% under.
Nice.
Very funny that no one really wanted to
figure this year.
Yeah. They brought down 1.5 points thinking that people were going to get on it, but yeah, for Roethlisberger.
So what was everyone's preference for line here between Fields and Ben over under?
I went Fields under. I think Gladys, put your earmuffs on. I think this is going to be a stinker of a game. I hope I'm wrong.
It already is. It already is.
Yeah, I was inclined to take the Bears at +7 because I believe that they cover because this game could end 6-0. You know?
Well, Cliff will just kind of, yeah. Okay. Okay.
I actually like Ben. Sorry, Gladys, go ahead.
No, go, please.
I actually voted for Ben over. I was tempted on Fields under those passing yards. if they had like some type of combined passing rushing yard, I'd be more inclined to go with Fields over. But yeah, I could see him struggling to get to 180 yards there. But looking at Ben, I mean, even in games where he struggles and the offense doesn't look, still like through volume find his way to get to 250. So especially now that it's gone down to 248. Well, it's too late now to put bets, but that would have been, that's where I voted, was Ben over. And it's funny because that seemed like that was the least popular option.
The least popular odd for all these polls, I feel, are surprising. That's just me.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
The least popular of everything. What was the percentage on Ben over? Or are you saying that is the least popular?
That was the least popular.
Huh.
Gladys,
Yeah,
what do you
so
think? Which one did you like?
I might have been the only one to vote for it then.
I didn't go Ben over for sure. But the way this game is starting, the only way they're going to score is by Ben throwing because they're all over Najee running. So he's completed 2 passes already. Like Kev said, 25-yard pass. And I know, I agree with Kevin. Week 9 as well. I didn't even bet on Pittsburgh with my friend from Chicago after Sunday's games because what is happening? Except that the Steelers are about to score. We're
Malik Turner, that's what's happening.
What?
Malik Turner, that's what's happening. Ben over was
I just like bad mouth Najee, and he just scored.
There you go. You have more faith in your. You gotta have more faith. Gladys.
He's in the red zone. It's like.
So Doc, what would your quarterback preference?
Oh, I was hoping that you were gonna forget that I was here.
Fair enough.
Can I abstain?
Sure, because I think that the passing yards were kind of tricky. Like it was, again, normally I'm going over
tricky,
everything.
I don't need. Give me something easy that I can screw up.
I was tempted to take Fields under to how tricky everything was. So okay, we'll go to rushing yards. So we talked about Najee Harris. So the prop was 7.5 yards rushing, and then also Fields 37.5 rush yards. Najee in the polls had he went like over was the choice for Najee. Almost 44% of the votes. There was 79.5. Yeah, that was the percentage. No, 44% of the votes still won the poll, and then Fields over got 30% of the votes. So majority of people saying over on both. I tend to feel like that I was more comfortable. Like to me the passing yards this week were like probably the most difficult in terms of the line in those polls. Dan, did anyone want to pick a favorite for rushing yards line here? I Fields over or under.
Definitely was like Fields over. They let him come out of his shell a little bit last week, and that's really what he can do. So that seems like it's attainable. I mean, we were so confident about like Patrick Mahomes and Daniel Jones. It was like 19 and 23 yards. We were like, oh, we really like those. So Fields just being a little bit more than that as a guy who can actually run. I don't know. That's my thought.
Like where your head's at, Doc.
I think the same thoughts for myself.
Somebody does.
I did vote for Fields over, so I think it was that same thinking. So yeah, Dan.
Yeah, the way that it's been going for the Chicago Bears, they've been letting Fields go off really lately. So again, it was interesting to see both of them kind of take off with the overs. So I would think Harris at some point is going to grind out over 80. I would think.
And actually, Fields under looks like that was at 6.5% of the votes on his rushing yard, the least popular of any option on any poll. So, yeah, I think I would have
thought with Pittsburgh's front that might have been harder to get to, but no, everyone's fairly confident he's just going to get out there.
Yeah. So then last is the receiving yards. So or passing stats, sorry, because some of these are just reception. We've got Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney both at 3.5 receptions. Pat Fryermuth at 3.5 receiving yards, and Deontay Johnson at 72.5 receiving yards. You're saying since the poll was put out, that's gone down a yard to 71.5. But but yeah.
Crazy.
So
I'm blown away by this. I'm blown away by this one. And honestly, when I first looked
through the poll numbers, that was the one that stood out to me. But anyway, Frymuth won this poll with 37% of the votes.
Wow.
And then followed by, so at 35.5 receiving yards, then followed by Mooney at 26.5, or percent of the votes at 3.5 receptions. Robinson at 20%. And I can see what you're saying. Like, this isn't the lowest of everything, but it was the lowest in this poll. It's only 16.7% of the Deontay Johnson, the over yards. I voted that one.
Wow. I would have taken that one.
I'll be honest,
fine.
that was my favorite line of everything. I think if there's one thing I would have had to pick, it would have been Johnson over that. I think he that's pretty attainable for him, especially all the targets he gets. This Bears secondary is not that great. No Khalil Mack too. The defense isn't quite up to there. So if there was one prop I had to pick anything in any direction, it would have Deontay Johnson over. So yes, I am surprised too, Dan, that this didn't get that many votes.
The more I looked into it, Deontay Johnson has only one game under 71 yards this year, and that was back in week 1. Allen Robinson
when they smashed the Bills and they didn't need to pass.
Yeah. Allen Robinson currently has only 3 games over 3.5 reception. That was 6-4-4 this year, and he outdid him. And Darnell Mooney, he's actually had better. He's done better than Robinson. He's had 5 games over 3.5 receptions, 5-6, 5-5, and 6. But the one guy that, like, you're sitting there thinking, like, okay, Frymouth, he's done well the last 2 weeks. Obviously, that comes in handy when Eric Ebron hasn't been out there. Deontay Johnson, only 1 game under 71. That's madness. Madness. And he still had 10 targets in that game. Madness.
It's only 35 yards more than Frymouth, right? Like, if Frymouth was any lower, like, it would be tempting to say that. It's too close between those two. So,
the crazy thing is,
it was 37.5.
Yeah, off he goes.
That's over.
The crazy thing is, without
he hit one run.
That's 16%.
Yeah.
Like, that's lower than what you'd think if you think we got over 100, we got about 115, 120 votes. So we're looking at maybe 10 votes for the guy. That's crazy.
Recency bias is a thing, my friend.
That's madness.
But he's also done well recently, though. That's
the thing. Like,
they're only going with the one running back set. They're only playing Montgomery. For the first 2, they've only played
hoping that if that Mooney to her question was answered, but I guess maybe Mooney hasn't done much either. But Gladys, did you have a preference between those receiving lines, whether it's the Bears guys or the receiving yards for your Steelers players?
The receptions for the Bears guys. They're going to have to throw the ball.
So you took both Mooney and Robinson at 3.5. You think they can both catch 4 passes?
I took Mooney. I didn't take Robinson.
And I think that makes sense. Like, I was a little just Mooney's outproduced Robinson almost every game this season. I was surprised to see them at the exact same. Almost, if I didn't pick Deontay, I might have gone with Mooney for that. But, like, again, Deontay's yardage told to me. Doc, did you want to chime in? Maybe what was your favorite line of?
No, I like Deontay Johnson. The Deontay Johnson line.
Okay, so apparently no one else on this show doesn't, but you on the show, we love Deontay Johnson. Let me just check see if there's any.
Wait till the end of the night. Wait till we're at the end of the night. And the guy goes for like 55 yards, and we all look stupid again. It happens every week.
So
it's
it's funny. Wheeler's not that Malik Turner's or Wheeler. I know when he used to be on the Packers, when Malik Taylor was also there, super confusing having both of them at the same time and transactions happening. And like, oh wait, what's happening? They released one, but so that was really confusing. Malik Turner definitely had a much better week 9 than Malik Taylor. He did not at all. Bad fumble on a punt return that he wasn't the returner, but he still fumbled. That's how bad Packers special teams are. So just to back to the question. Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, okay.
So at Bucks by Sooner on Twitter wanted me to tell you thank you very much that he takes notes on the things that you say and you've helped him. That he was going to quit playing fantasy before he started listening to you.
Wow.
So that you've been very helpful to him.
All right. That made my day. Thank you very much for that.
It's the book. So back to Taggy Carp's question. Just to mention the trade question, and again, wanting to get Metcalf or Lockett. I guess the idea of Hill's playing the Bengals in the final week. So again, looking at Week 16 matchups, like I think maybe that's the temptation. They want Hill and a Seahawks receiver in their lineup. So maybe the Waller trade is the way to go. Or again, if you can get Higgins for Lockett, that might be the kind of way to pivot there. But if you can get giving up Waller to get Metcalf might be the way to go about it. Because they mentioned
alternatively, if Tyreek Hill's getting the Bengals in the last week, T. Higgins is getting the Chiefs in the last week too. The Chiefs are they're just.
You might want to play both of them.
There you go. Like the Chiefs are brutal.
The way the way they're mentioning is that the managers who have Saquon and Chubb, and I kind of Chubb on this won't be giving them up to get Tyreek. Like they like them too much. Like these are the guys to build around. They don't want so.
I hate fantasy points. Okay.
I don't know, man. Didn't Chubb just outscore Tyreek Hill this week?
Listen,
Chubb had an amazing week. He had an amazing week. Finally.
Last 2 years, Saquon Barkley has been injured or had more bad games than he's had good. I don't want to hold on to him for my life. I would be getting rid of him anywhere I could, if I could. Because at that point, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for him to score points for you?
Let's keep in mind, audience, this is a Giants fan speaking.
I'm the Giants guy. I know. How bad's that? Listen. We could go through how many more points per game the Giants score with him on the field with Jones. It's very linear in that regard. They score good points together. They just don't play together.
All I can say is Dan had good things to say about Evan Ingram, so anything is possible. And Hamid, if you're listening, I'm sorry that you had to hear that.
No, hey, listen, I'm not an Evan Ingram guy. I really am not.
Kidding.
Listen, when you've got Darius Slayton throwing up donuts for you week after week after week, and you're thinking Dante Pettis, Colin Johnson, or John Ross are going to do something, my God. Who is the most surprised person in the world that Kenny Golladay played this week? Kenny Golladay was surprised he was playing. Even he turned up with, I'm playing? All right, no worries. Ridiculous. Evan Ingram was.
I didn't even know he played, to be honest.
Yeah, no.
I think what did he go 2 for 28, right? Something like that.
No, he was out there.
All right,
Evan Ingram,
let's get out of here so Gladys can go watch her team score 3 points and win 3-0.
It's 37-0, buddy.
Okay, there you go. So you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, I am.
Najee Harris.
Najee
Harris.
You're actually able to take the point after. That's a good sign.
There we go.
And please let that be Mooney.
Sure as hell isn't ever Allen Robinson.
Yeah, it's not Allen Robinson.
It doesn't matter.
Right,
well, 1,000 yards.
We appreciate everyone who was here. Wheeler, Tajikarp, Ryan, of course. Again, and Izzy. Izzy stopped in. How can we forget that?
Thank you guys so much for the questions and the comments. Thanks for finding us. We really appreciate you. We love you.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Thank you guys for speaking with us.
So,
our rants. I mean, his rants.
We're all together here. It's all one big rant. But yes, of course, plug a lot, including Doc's book. Injuries suck, but your fantasy team doesn't have to. That book definitely doesn't suck. It's great. Available on Amazon and wherever you get your literature.
This book is so good, you don't get paper cuts. None.
That's true.
That's
true. Good paper cut.
Sorry, I haven't gotten a paper cut from it.
All right, that's awesome.
All right, you guys.
You just have to cut that comment down.
I will see you next week.
Gladys is out.
Yeah.
Gladys is going to watch the game.
Watch the game.
Enjoy.
Bye.
See you next
I will.
So at Going for Two Live, everything. Ryan's thanking us for being awesome, but yeah, you're awesome, Ryan, for coming in watching live. Appreciate that. But everything Going for Two Live on Twitter.
Nice having comments this week.
I love it. I want to give a special shout out for our Dynasty League to the Yeti Express, Jared Good.
Oh, no.
You may have won $15,000 in a DraftKings tournament. You can buy whatever you want with that, but you know what you can't win? What you can't buy? You can't buy a win against the Doc this week. So money doesn't buy you everything. But congratulations again, and better luck next time.
His team's better than mine, so at least he is that. But yes, follow all of us on Twitter. Gladys is at Gladys L. Tyler. Dan's at the B League Sex at TFS Doc. That's the Fantasy Sports Doc. I'm at Senra Says. And again, everything Going for Two Live is on Twitter at Going for Two Live. You get shows almost every night of the week. Check all that out throughout the football season, and we really appreciate everyone who comes and watches this show live or listens on the podcast form. Appreciate it. So on behalf of Gladys, Dan, and Doc, I'm getting Kyle Senra signing out the 2-point conversion. Bye for now.
Good night, everyone. Enjoy the game.